guardian angels of the priests.
We have in the Institute of Christ the King, which is a spiritual family, three principal vocations. There are the priests of the Institute, who are called Canons because they live in common and are consecrated to the solemn worship of God. We have the brothers of the Institute, who are called clerical oblates, and we have the sisters of the Institute, the Adorers with Royal Heart of Jesus, who are not cloistered, but they are primarily contemplative sisters. They pray for the priests and the oblates and the seminarians. Right? The seminarians are those studying in view of the priesthood. Now, very, very early on in the history of the church herself took this lowest rank of the hierarchy, the ministry or the diaconia, the diaconate, and then for the purpose of the full panoply of the church's worship and also the practical needs of the early church, separated out the different functions that were implicit in the deacon's job and made them what we call the minor orders, right? So you have the four minor orders: the porter, the lector, the exorcist, the acolyte, and then the office of subdeacon, sort of a transition between the role of the minor orders and then the three major orders. As those became crystallized, the subdeacon, deacon, and priest. Those are the ones who wear sacred vestments in the offering of Holy Mass. Those are the ones who are bound by the, we call the canonical obligation, to recite the divine office every day, and then the promise of holy celibacy. So those are the major orders. And so the oblates of the Institute, they do receive holy orders, right? They're not men who go on to the priesthood, but they can, after a sufficient period of discernment and preparation, receive all the minor orders and the subdiaconate, and they receive them as an office in their own right, not just as a stepping stone to the priesthood.
People notice that we designate the oblates by the title abbé in front of their name, and many people wonder where that comes from. It's a French term that means a cleric, a man who receives the cassock and the collar, along with the clerical tonsure and the various minor orders. Well, in the English language, you really don't have a specific title for a man who is wearing the cassock and has been tonsured. We simply use the term Mr. And so we borrow the term from the French, that term abbé. After the first 2 years of formation, an oblate may be invited at that point, if he is ready, to receive the clerical cassock. And then throughout the successive years of his formation, if he responds well to the formation, we see him grow and mature in his spiritual life, he may be invited to receive the clerical tonsure and one by one the various minor orders in the church: porter, lector, exorcist, and acolyte. And after 10 years, a man may be called to receive the subdiaconate as an oblate, to serve as a subdeacon at the altar, chanting the epistle, praying the complete hours of the breviary every day, and really pledging his life to celibacy.
Wearing the cassock, I've definitely felt some interior change. In my normal interaction with people, it's no longer what it once was. When I'm speaking to a stranger on the street, it's awkward if I don't talk about Jesus Christ or I don't talk about his church, and I love that. I love that I must speak about Christ to everyone I meet because, hello, something's going on here. And in fact, people don't want to meet Jeffrey, they want to meet Abe. And that's a real duty that I feel in my interactions with people, and it affects how I walk, how I talk, in a good way. It elevates me because I'm no longer my own person, I'm given.
If Holy Mother Church puts a garb on her ministers, it's so that we are visibly recognizable in the world. And who knows the marvels of grace of a young man seeing the Roman collar, seeing the cassock. It could either prick an aspect of his conscience, or there could be a draw to that life.
For me, it represents first of all, a sacrifice, and that you're giving your life to God. And I think when people see that, they realize that too. I feel like I've given my life to God through the service of the priesthood and to the service of our Holy Mother, the Church.
When an oblate decides to accept the invitation to make the definitive commitment of his life to serve in the Church in the Institute for the rest of his life, then he may be invited to receive the cross of St. Francis de Sales. This cross, which was designed by St. Francis de Sales along with St. Jane Francis de Chantal, this cross has various markings on it that symbolize the Sacred Heart of Jesus and the Immaculate Heart of Mary. This cross is worn around the neck with a blue ribbon that symbolizes our complete consecration to Mary Immaculate, patroness of the Institute. And the priests, the religious sisters, and also the lay members of the Society of the Sacred Heart wear the same cross of St. Francis de Sales alongside the oblates, thus showing the spiritual unity of our family within Holy Mother Church.
Our community life really thrives off of the fact that we have a very true brotherhood among us, especially between the oblates and between the priests. We're all brothers in the same house, and I've always felt that. It's always been clear to me that we were brothers, and that brotherhood does definitely lift me up. For me, one of the most palpable moments of our brotherhood is when we're at the office, and it might be because I'm a musician and the music just speaks to me more than anything else. But when we're at the office together and everyone has their part, everyone sits together, everyone takes off the beretta at the same time, we bow to each other before we go back to our spots. There's this, what some people might think to be a stale kind of formality is not at all stale. This formality breeds this very true supernatural love for each other, that if you have enough forgetfulness of self to get past this idea, this very mundane idea that it's just formality, it becomes so enriching. That these moments in the choir are certainly the most important. And in that we see the beauty of what the heavenly court will be like, where everything will be incredibly ordered towards love, and a love that's forgetful of self. And because of that, we are consoled here on earth to see that we're living out in a little way what heaven is going to be like.
Community prayer is so important to our charism, and the oblates have that beautiful vocation of aiding us in chanting the divine office multiple times a day. So we're in front of the Blessed Sacrament. We're chanting the eternal psalms to our Divine Master, and He is the source of our joy. He is the Prince of Peace. And so already our community prayer life brings about a supernatural peace and a supernatural joy. And then we get to receive that all from the tabernacle and then live it in our rectories and live it in our apostolates. This vocation opens the doors to profound religious friendships and fraternal unity with people, personalities, and temperaments that we never would have been exposed to in the world. We would have been in completely different circles, whether social circles or intellectual circles or athletic circles, but the fact that religious life and the common goal of answering God's will brings this incredible diversity of people under the same roof. It's a richness and it's a flourishing of the human person that, cooperating with grace is an incredible source of joy.